can remember at his funeral people saying to me, if you're half the man your dad was, you'll have done all right.
Wow.
And his funeral were packed out. And I want to ask him how he got there, how he got to that man where everybody liked being around, how he got to the funeral being, because now them things are starting to be more important to me in life. Of it's not about the things that I have. It's not about walking all over people or scraping and scratching to win this and win that. Obviously, I'm in a results-based sport, but the connections I'm making with people, and I'd love to go back to certain people and say, sorry mate, I got that wrong.
Big piece of work, that.
I know that. And clean up, and I think to say where I'm going through in life now, it's almost that caterpillar stage where I'm breaking out, and I'm seeing the world for how beautiful it is. And there was so much I missed back then when I was just so driven on getting to where I need to get to. And I'm that confusion is coming from, was that the right thing to do? Because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't do that. Or did I get some things wrong? And it's about not carrying on making them same mistakes for me.
So today I'm joined by Kruise Leeming, professional rugby player at the Wigan Warriors rugby league team. Kruise, so good to have you, mate. Been trying to get you on for a while. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. Got this sense of feeling like a bit of a kid at Christmas. Something big's coming. Something big is, or I'm involved in something big.
Yeah.
Really grateful for everything at the minute. Life's really good.
Wonderful. So, Kruise, we connected, if you like. I've met you before, but we connected recently, actually, on a 3-day leadership camp that I facilitated for you guys, for the leadership team at the Wigan Warriors. And we spent 3 days, didn't we, in the Lake District without our telephones, doing weird and wonderful things in the name of leadership. How was that for you, mate?
Yeah, it wasn't as weird as you're making out there, but it were eye-opening. I took a lot of things from that in terms of little insecurities I've got that I didn't realise. A lot of distractions in the world now around phones. That were a big one. Taking us phones off us was probably the best part of it for me as a camp. I realised how distracted we are, and even in us thoughts sometimes it took me so long to get to sleep that first night without having my phone to scroll on and thinking things through, but it gave me a chance to unpack certain things. Then the second night a little bit less. Last night slept like a baby, and I've actually carried that on coming back home. I've tried to keep my phone in a different room. My phone's screen time's as far down as I can possibly get it.
Nice.
I think searching for boredom and searching for silence is something that I don't think a lot of us do, especially me. Even round a table, dinner table with my teammates, people that I know, people that I've spent a lot of time with. Every time I'd say something, if it maybe a joke that didn't land as heavy as I wanted it to land, or a topic that wasn't as interesting as what I thought people would perceive it to be, and it's almost like you go into yourself and go and reach for your phone. Even I didn't have it for that 3 days. I was just programmed to put my hand in my pocket and reach for my phone. So really eye-opening, and there were a lot of benefits to that camp for me of just not having my phone for 3 days.
Great. So one of the things we did on the camp, which I do with a lot of my clients, is there's a leadership profile. And we pulled together a few different kind of questionnaires, and it was evident when I looked at your leadership program that like your number one leadership trait, if you like, or your number one leadership talent to a degree is responsibility. You've got this real kind of responsibility within you, and I know you've had a fascinating life. And can you go into that, like responsibility? Even when I look at your eyes now, I can see that you're a responsible human being. You've got, it oozes out of you. Like, when did that start? This inner, fuck, I'm responsible. I want to be significant. I want to be responsible and do something in this world. When did that start?
The way my life started I've always seemed to have a different upbringing to everybody else. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's been a good thing for me. I've had to make it into a good thing. But for people who don't know, that haven't heard my story, my dad was a paratrooping regiment in the army. He came back from that, and he went and he flipped a coin. He said, I want to either travel Africa or travel America. The coin landed on whatever it landed on, and he travelled Africa, and he met my mum in Africa on the being a croupier. That is the people in a casino that spin the wheels, deal the cards. That's what he did with my mum.
Right.
And then to get out of South Africa and move around, they started on cruise ships. Then doing that on cruise ships, I was conceived on a cruise ship, and and it was such a great part of my mum and dad's life that they wanted to name me something to do with the experience that they'd had, and that's where I got my name.
Oh wow!
So that was a unique upbringing, and I was born in Swaziland. It's a landlocked monarchy at the bottom of South Africa. So then moving to England at 4 years old, dad fully British, mother fully African Siswati. It was difficult for me in terms of school life, not knowing the language, not being able to express myself and talk to other students. That turned into a lot of aggression, a lot of fighting, not being able to get my point across, not being able to communicate. Then at the age of getting through that, them struggles, being different, looking different, children are very honest. And if they see something that they're not used to seeing, they think, what's that? Why does he look that way? And why, I lived in Siddle, very working man's.
Wow. Halifax, right?
Halifax, yeah, working man's town.
Not many people from Swaziland in Halifax, right?
Exactly. So, not through the kids' fault either. They're just, as I'd see difference. And as a child, you're honest. It's the best thing about children, how honest and innocent they are. So having to navigate myself through that early on gave me a little bit of responsibility to not be able to go out and fight. And I used to bite kids as a young lad because I was so frustrated that I couldn't speak the way that I've been used to speaking, be able to give my opinion, give my point across, coming from a vocal household as well. So, and my dad and my mum saying that's not right, you can't. So I took responsibility for that, and I had to take responsibility for that early on. Fast forward to 8 years old, my dad passed away of cancer. He was part of the military, always made it, I can remember him coming in like white t-shirts, white linen pants, and they always had a pleat down the middle of his pants, really well ironed. His hair was always slicked back. His room was always tidy, and I adopted that. Being on time were a massive thing. If I were late, 1 minute late, he'd leave. My granddad were the same. He instilled that even after my dad passed away, 10, 11, 12. Even now, you go to my granddad's for Sunday dinner. If you're not there on time, it's a big problem.
Yeah. Got it.
Morals coming from a family of even my mum's background of elders, respecting your elders, and you only get to you only stop doing certain jobs like tidying up around the house, washing up as you get older. My mum, it were a massive thing my mum used to say to me as I used to be doing all the washing up and all the the rubbish jobs, hoovering, and I said, Mum, why do I always have to do this? And she said, because you can't do the big jobs. The big jobs are for me, going out and earning the money. You can't do. When you can do that, then you can stop doing the small jobs. And then when my sisters came along, it were like I ended up going out and earning money then, and then they started to get and it's just a culture of that I've been brought up in. So then for my dad to leave, the man of the house that was a breadwinner, earned a lot of money, and to see that at 8 years old, and I can remember trying to shift that responsibility. My mum were really good at, through that period of losing my dad. There were another guy in my school that at the same age lost his father to cancer as well, and he went off the rails, and I almost liked that he got a chance to act naughty at school, swear, tell people to where he wanted them to go, and be nasty to people, and always had that out of, well, my dad's just died, so I can do that. My mum never gave me that. She was like, there's no way on earth you're using your dad's name, who's got such a good name round Halifax, what he's done for the country, where he's been, the stories he's got. There's no way you're using your father's name now to disgrace it and be ill-mannered, to be unresponsible, to be late, to treat your elders in a bad way. She just wasn't having that at all. And the love for my mother has grown as I've got older and older, because I know how hard that must have been, her losing a parent, being pregnant with my younger sister. I know that it must have been so easy for her to let me get away with certain things, and she never did. So I've got a lot of respect for my mum in that way. So to answer your question and to go back to the start, there's been a lot of responsibility in my life growing up, and a lot of baselines to go back to of role models of my dad, the way he were, the way my mum made things clear of black and white, what was right and what was wrong. And then I was held to a standard of keeping that. And when my dad passed away, I can remember my mother saying to me, and I can remember my dad being on his deathbed and saying, I'm going now. You're going to be the man of the house. You're going to have to look after your sisters and look after your mum. And when my dad went, my mum reinforcing that and telling me that. So from a young age, obviously, I probably wasn't responsible for anything, but they made me believe that I was going to be responsible. And actually, as I grew older, at 16, 17, I moved out of my home and I looked after my sisters up until then. So I actually did then start taking responsibility for my mum and my sisters.
Fascinating, eh? So having to step up like that when your father passed away, it's obviously helped you to be a responsible man, a responsible adult. You know, I've had some fascinating conversations with you. I know that you're really committed to your rugby career, but you're also smart enough to think beyond that. I know that you want to make a difference in the world. So there's obviously something good about being held responsible at such a young age. What's the opposite? What's the downside of that? Did you have any troubles as a kid growing up? Were there any struggles that you went through? Obviously, on one hand, you're stepping up, you're being responsible, but was there any? What struggles did you go through as a kid?
Yeah, I think one that's come from that camp, to be fair, one that has kept creeping up in my career in different scenarios and different places. It's the seriousness around how I do things. Yeah, I think the fun sometimes, unless I'm really, really comfortable and I'm not being judged for what I'm doing, and I'm not doing a job. I can be my jokey and laugh myself and be at home with my partner and my mum and my sisters and have a laugh. And I've got that capability. I try to have a laugh at home, but I think during my work, I've not got that balance right for a long period of my life.
Got you.
And I think that has been the downside.
Well, it's no surprise, mate. You know, you've stepped up as the man in the house. Maybe the playful 8-year-old had to take a rest for a while. You know?
100%. And I think I do look back at some certain points of my life now and think, wow, I was so driven and so harsh, and almost relationships and things have totally, were not even third or fourth on my list. I wasn't there to make friends. I wasn't there to be nice to people. I was there to do a job, play the best I possibly could play, hold myself to a really high standard, no matter who I walked all over, no matter who I hurt, the feelings. As long as I were doing my job and as long as you were doing your job, I didn't mind us not having a relationship at all. And it's only now, until I've started getting older, I am going through a period now in my life of, there's a little bit of confusion there in terms of, there's a lot of questions I'd like to ask my dad now. I'm missing him. I feel like I'm missing him now. Back then, at 8 years old, when he passed, it was almost, I didn't care. The nicest possible way. I don't know how to put this across, but your dad's your hero. I'd spent 8 years of my life with him. I was his best mate. He took me everywhere, but I was just like, oh, he'll come back. Like, there's no way. And it's only until you get a bit older, 15, 16, you think, he's not actually coming back here. And then you start to deal with it. And it's now at 29 years old, me thinking about bringing kids into the world, how I am showing up as a man. I just want
a potential dad.
A potential dad. It's just, I can remember at his funeral people saying to me, if you're half the man your dad was, you'll have done all right.
Wow.
And his funeral were packed out. And I want to ask him how he got there, how he got to that man where everybody liked being around, how he got to the funeral being, because now them things are starting to be more important to me in life. Of it's not about the things that I have. It's not about walking all over people or scraping and scratching to win this and win that. Obviously, I'm in a results-based sport, but the connections I'm making with people, and I'd love to go back to certain people and say, sorry mate, I got that wrong.
Big piece of work, that.
I know that. And clean up, and I think to say where I'm going through in life now, it's almost that caterpillar stage where I'm breaking out, and I'm seeing the world for how beautiful it is. And there was so much I missed back then when I was just so driven on getting to where I need to get to. And I'm that confusion is coming from, was that the right thing to do? Because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't do that. Or did I get some things wrong? And it's about not carrying on making them same mistakes for me. And because I do love talking to people, and probably why when I was a child going through not being able to communicate, it's probably another thing on that Clifton Strengths was communicator.
He was a communicator,
and I love communicating. I love speaking to people.
It comes natural for you, doesn't it?
It does. I really enjoy it. It gets me almost like a game does, where I walk off a game with that sense of achievement. And that sense of, wow, that were good. I'm pushing the needle forward in the world, and in myself, in self-development, and being a better person.
Yeah, cool. All right, so you came over here when you were 4. That kind of been easy. Your mum has been a good role model around, keeping you on the straight and narrow. Your father's passed away. Your mum's kept you on the straight and narrow, give you a sense of responsibility. It's highly likely that at 8 years of age, it's not kicked in really, the depth of your dad's death, because you've just cracked on. And metaphorically, you have been the man in the house, and you've probably been wanting to impress him as well, secretly. So you've gone, you've been responsible. We'll come on to the playful side later, because I've seen that in you sat around the fire, and it's beautiful. But I can also understand why you might have suppressed it growing up, to survive and get through. And really push towards age 15, 16 when you can start earning your own money. Talk to me about when you got into rugby and how that helped you to develop as a child and a teenager.
So I played a lot of golf growing up, single, individual sport. I a lot of badminton, squash, golf. I was very individual in my sport growing up.
So you were good at more sports?
I was good at a lot of sports. Single figure handicap golfer. Played for my county, badminton, and different sports. So, and the way I got into rugby, where I was playing golf on the rugby field, and I was taking up, ripping the turf up, and the groundsman come over and he was like, "You can't keep doing this to my turf." He says, "Come and train." I went and trained, and we made a bit of a deal. If I train, then he'll let me use his field to keep playing golf and keep practicing.
How old were you then?
10, 11.
Okay. You haven't touched a rugby ball really before then?
Never.
Wow.
Never. And I can remember going and training and loving the physical, loving the running and that feeling, and when you break the line and run towards a try line and scoring and the crowd going, I loved that. There was none of that in golf. And I loved the camaraderie after the games of pie and peas with the lads and talking through the game, and
pie and peas.
Yeah, I loved it. So I really took to that. I can remember then playing sport through the winter, and I didn't like, and then I broke away from rugby a little bit because I just thought I was getting muddy and dirty and horrible. I would rather go back to golf where it's nice, be smart. And that's something that I took from my dad, of being clean, and I didn't like getting caked in mud. Went back to summer, and then I started playing again, enjoyed it again, missed the lads. Got most of my friends now are from the Siddle team that I came through as. So yeah, I got into rugby that way, and I think it gave me friends, it gave me my confidence. It made that weirdness of me looking different and not being like every other child. It actually made it a good thing. Because then I was good at rugby league, and it stood me out even more from the lads that were just as good as me but didn't look different. And I can remember coming through high school with some black lads that maybe weren't playing rugby that I got on with that didn't get the benefits of being different. I got the benefits. I was lucky that I got the benefits of, oh, is that black lad that plays? Go player him. And it were always positive. It were always a good thing. And then I started to feed off that. Then I am different. I'm special. I love that. I'm special. I'm different to everybody else. And that, looking back now, from 12 to 16, getting picked to represent my country, getting picked for different teams and Yorkshire teams, and going on different trips and being taken out of school for certain things. I look back on it now, and it's probably that 12 to 16 period of anybody's life, especially a young lad. You're starting to form your relationships, the people that are going to look after you, your role models, who you're seeing, what are doing, what you want to do. And it were probably a lot more significant than what I thought back then, that I didn't go into, hanging around a school gates and smoking fags, and didn't go getting a gang and stuff like that, because my mates weren't doing it. They're all playing rugby. We couldn't wait for a weekend where we were all playing together, and that were our buzz. So very thankful that I came through that system, and that's why sport's so good in it, because you can come from different backgrounds and it's used in a good way. So you've been an outlier as a kid for obvious reasons. You've played individual sports, interesting, eh? And then you get a chance to play rugby, and it sounds like it's really pivotal that when you were 10, 11 and you played that first rugby game, and you felt like part of a community after that. You start to feel less alone, maybe. I started feeling like, instead of everyone in a school playground being against me and me just doing things on my own as I did, and me being the naughty child or the child that fights all the time, I were actually celebrated for being different. And I actually had mates that were willing to put their neck on the chopping board for me. I'd never seen that before, and it was something that I really gravitated towards and thought, wow, I've got friends here that are not willing to just play in a sandpit with me, or read a book with me at bedtime or whatever at school that you used to get as a primary school kid. It were more, they're willing to go into battle, and they're willing to fight for me and put their health and their neck on the line. And I thought, wow, I've been doing this for myself for so long, and I've got 12 other lads on a field there that are willing to jump in, and it took me back, and it made me think, this is my new family now.
Great. When did you really start to take rugby seriously? When did you know you could be a pro and you could make a living from it? And then you really put the accelerator down and became responsible.
I used to get up and go to school on a scooter when I was 16, so you can have a scooter license just a year before you can drive, and my granddad got me a scooter, and I used to be in gym at 6 every morning before school, and I started giving it a go then, but it was because I'd got a scholarship, and they started I knew the next part was to get an academy contract, and
Which team?
I was a scholarship with Warrington Wolves, and then I got my academy contract with Huddersfield, and then they were going to start paying me. And I thought, wow, I'm close here. And that was the only time. And then I can remember turning around to my mum. So a big thing for her, just to give you the background culturally, in Swaziland, where I was born, kids have to pay to go to school. So if you basically, the rich kids go to school and learn how to speak English, and they're smart and they get a good job, and the children they could be the smartest children in the world, if their family cannot afford to send you to school. Some of the kids in my village used to go to school one day out of the week because that's all they could afford. And then my mum brings me to England, and she loved the fact that I could go to school for free. She loved that, and she was like, wow, this education's free, and he can go, and he's going to be a doctor. My kid's coming from Africa, he's going to realise the benefits, that he's going to realise how lucky he is that he's been around the kids that haven't been able to go to school and not been able to pay. So he's going to lap this up. And then I turn around to my mum at 16 and say, I'm not going to go on to university, I'm going to go and be a rugby player. And she's like, what? No, that's not the plan. Like, school's free over here, you can go and do this and become a doctor. And I can remember us breaking for a little bit, because it's like telling your mum you want to be a magician, saying you want to be a professional sportsman.
Yeah.
And it was then that I thought, I need to make this work.
Especially your mother from a different country, yeah?
100%. And it was then I thought, I need to make this work, because I had no backing from my mum. She were almost like washed her hands of me a little bit. Not around the house, but she's like, if you're doing this, you're getting no support off me, because I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And it was probably the best thing, because I had to put all my eggs in one basket. We spoke really early on, didn't we, about distractions and having too much choice in this world nowadays. Sometimes it can be seen as a good thing, but sometimes it's at your detriment, that you've got too many things and you have a go at that and then you have a little go at that and you never actually nail anything. Try to catch two rabbits and you get none. But that made me put all my eggs into one basket, because I thought, well, I've already annoyed my mum and I'm getting no support from her, so I'm on my own on this. So I've got to make it work.
Okay. So there was a brief separation from mum, which is not a bad thing for any boy, but obviously you'd like it to be on a little bit easier terms, right? All right. When did you reconnect with your mum then after that?
Like I say, it was a break, as in she didn't agree with what I was doing, but I was always living under her roof. I was always getting fed by her. It was never a break, as in we didn't speak to each other, but it was just something that she just never wanted to hear about. She
just took time for her to come to terms with it. Yeah,
for it to be a reality for her. It became a reality for me really quickly after I got the scholarship and got the academy deal, and thought, wow, I'm earning money. I was on maybe $3,000 a year then. As an 16, I thought, wow, I'm starting to earn a bit of money. Then I think my academy deal went $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, and then lads that are 16 going to university, I were earning a bit more money than them, and I started thinking, well, I'm doing it, Mum. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing it here. I'm making a life for myself. Afford to do my own driving. Afford to save up a little bit of money to move out.
Yeah.
So I did start that ball rolling. And it started being a reality for my mum then, because she started thinking, the breakage came because she never came watch me play. It was just something that it was like, no, it's not going to work.
Okay. So you signed for Huddersfield. What age were you when you signed a pro contract for Huddersfield?
I signed 16 and a half, I think. I wasn't in the academy long.
Okay, 16 and a half. How many years at Huddersfield before you went to Leeds?
I think it was 8.
Oh wow! So you did 8 years at Huddersfield.
Yeah.
How many years at Leeds?
3, I think.
3. And then you played in Australia.
Yeah, I went to Australia for a year.
Yeah, and now you're at Wigan.
Yeah.
So in your pro career, tell me about some highlights for you, or pivotal moments, or not necessarily spectacular moments, like significant turning points.
I think that's a great question, because when you said highlights, I was going to say everything I've been through in my life has been a highlight or turned into something good. I've never seen anything as a downfall. Even moving from Huddersfield to Leeds, then Leeds, I ended up, I was captain at Leeds Rhinos there, and to walk away from that, people saying, what are you doing? Why are you walking away? But the views of the head, the head coach probably wasn't aligned with my views. And when you're a captain, you can't go back on what you believe, because I'd been preaching something to the lads for so long. Then you get a new coach. Not to say his theories are wrong, by the way. Mine might be. It was just differences.
Just
of
a
opinion.
mismatch.
Yeah, difference. This different ways to skin a cat in there. But the way I believed we should train and be, and the culture around us as lads, he didn't really align with, and didn't. So if I wasn't the captain, I probably could have put up with it and change my beliefs a little bit. I don't know if it is me to do that, but as a captain, I couldn't then backflip on what I was saying to the lads and go, all right, now this new coach is coming, what I was saying for the last year or 2 years, let's scrap that. I believe in this coach. It wasn't me. So to walk away from that, being a captain of such a massive club at such a young age, again, was another thing. I felt back to the mum situation, and everyone saying, you're doing something wrong, it's never going to work. And then to go to Australia and get the chance to, through a suffering and a bad period of like leaving a club, became one of the highlights as well, of going to Australia and playing out there. I loved it. Loved playing on the Gold Coast out there. Then to come back and then sign for Wigan, it's all been part of the journey. It's all started with Huddersfield and then going to Leeds, and winning everything that there is to win in the game. Last year, winning all 4 trophies is another thing where surreal moments. And without Huddersfield, Leeds, Gold Coast, I don't end up at Wigan. And I probably, if I'd have stayed at Leeds and been captain there, I probably wouldn't have made the switch and stayed there for the rest of my career. Who knows?
Yeah.
So everything's been really pivotal in my career. Every decision I've had to make, and it seems to me that through every little bit of suffering I've had, I've always got the light at the end of the tunnel. Through every bit of suffering, it's always, at the time I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why can't everything just be so simple? But it's like I couldn't see the bigger picture. I could only see a corner of the drawing. And as I've then 2 years on, I've seen the bigger picture and thought, wow, I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened. So it is a lesson for life, innit? When you're going through suffering, is to just hold your nerve, stay true to what you believe in. And that's what I did. I stayed true to what I was saying, what I believed in, because it wasn't just off the cuff things that I woke up one morning and thought, right, this is how I'm going to be today. It was something that had been bred into me of hard work and being a good person, and it was something that had been bred into me from being a young lad, and I wasn't willing to change that for somebody else's beliefs. And at the time it feels really hard to do, but then you stay true to yourself, and if you are trying to do good in the world, I think you'll get your karma and it comes back and it's good for you.
Yeah, all right. So we'll come back to rugby in a minute, and we'll come back to Wigan as well, because I know that you've been at Wigan now for a while, and I'm interested to know how that's been for you. But what I want to talk about is mentors in your life, because your father's died when you're 8, and to your credit, you know what I mean, you've become an incredible man. And the reason I say that is I've worked with a lot of men that have lost their fathers. They turn into adults and they can't get the shit together. It's such a difficult thing in a man's life, unless you've got a mother like you had, that really kind of stepped into the father role, really, and kept you on the straight and narrow and gave you discipline and responsibility. Even though I'm sure there were times in your teenage years when you could have gone off the rails, but you do have your shit together for sure. I can see that. Apart from your mum who stepped in, from the age of 8 to now, who have been some significant mentors in your life who you've taken something from them, or they've seen something in you, and through the gaze and through the way they were with you, they've allowed you to really express yourself, because sometimes when we lose somebody, the energy of the father can come in different forms. Like who's been pivotal in your life?
Thanks for that, Craig. It really means a lot for you to say that to me, because I do respect your opinion, and it means more to me that than anything from another man to say that. So thank you. Gaz Greenwood is somebody that you've worked with a little bit. He was my amateur coach at Siddle, but had played the game at Huddersfield, been in a professional system, so knew the crack really. We're too good to coach an amateur team, but he found himself probably getting a little bit of money to coach some kids at 12, 13, 14. And I think the relationships that I've had the best with, it's when they've started a little bit rocky straight away, so we've been really honest with each other straight away, or he said something to me, I've said something to him in anger, and I can remember him coming into the team and him dropping me, and I was like the best player then. He put me on the bench, and I can remember being like, what, nobody had ever, and I was a young lad, getting all this praise, walking around with me Huddersfield tracksuit on and thinking I was the big man, yeah, all this, and for somebody to just put me in my place and say this and this, what wasn't great, and then me, be rude to him and say things back to him. We had that dialogue, we opened up that honestness straight away, honesty, and I think that's where my best relationships have come from, where you're just honest with each other straight away and say what you don't like about each other, and it's easy to say what you do like about it. I think that's the easy part of a relationship, to see what you do like. And he came in and he made me be a man, really helped me in that way of, even now, he's a massive, he's like my second dad or whatever. He's a massive father figure in my life. I speak to him every day. He tells me how lucky I am all the time. He always tells me very raw hard, uncomfortable things to hear. Even when I'm getting above my station at rugby, and we all do it, though. We go home and I'm tired and I'm a bit sore and all this. And he's like, do you realise what you're doing? He says, go work on a building site, 6 days a week, and go home to an house you don't own and things like that. And he just puts things into perspective for me. And he's been huge, really, because he has made me the person. He's carried on them morals and made me think. I think there's sometimes in your life you're trying to do good in the world, but you see a lot of people not being good, and you think, am I wrong then? Shall I be like these? And that line that we opened and the way that he was telling me to be, I thought, no, I am on the right path here. It is hard to be a good person. It's hard to do the right thing all the time, and hard choices, easy life. So he made me take the hard route all the time, and it's always resulted in me getting things I've wanted to get off the back of it, of the delayed gratification and stuff like that. So he's been a massive part of my life. My granddad's been a big part of my life. He's also taught me how to be a man.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Wow.
He's chivalrous around women.
Yeah.
He taught me how to, he's big into golf, so the etiquette around golf is something that I've taken into my life. Don't cheat. Dress smart when you're on a golf course. How you want to meet somebody. How you want to, you're not dressing because you want to look good or because you can't be arsed one day. I'm dressing for the person that I'm meeting. So if I look like a bag of rags, it actually says to the person that I'm meeting, I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about you. And he's taught me that. He always looks smart. Even when he's around the house, just he'll always look smart and presentable. They're things that I've picked up from him, and I think they're right as well. They're not just things that I've learned and thought, well, this is my way, I'm stuck in it. As I'm getting older in life, I think I'd want my children to pick them things up as well.
Yeah, I've never heard that attitude before. I like that. Yeah, dressing for another person. Yeah. Your granddad sounds ace.
Yeah, he's good. If I'm coming to meet somebody, or and they don't look presentable, I think they're not bothered about what I've got to say, or sometimes I think it's right. Some people don't see it like that, and I get that as well. But that's just how I've been brought up. So,
So Gaz, your granddad, any other significant men in your life in those growing years? We'll come on to coaches in a minute as well.
Yeah, they're the two.
They're the two, yeah.
They're the two.
So, as hard as it is to lose your father at 8, would you say that you've still had some fathering from those two?
100%.
In terms of the energy that they emit,
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes it can come in a different form,
Yeah, I think Gaz sees me as one of his own. My granddad obviously is my granddad. I'm a son of his in some form.
Of course.
I've always felt held to a very high standard by both, but very loved and protected by both. It's strange with the father figure. Now I'm getting older, it's something I want to explore loads more, because there's people now that talk about the fathers that are around and they have nothing but problems with them. And it's something that I think, wow, I've got such fond memories of my dad, but I think, how would things have been different if he'd have been around? Would I still have that relationship with him? Would we have clashed on a lot of things? Would he have been a pushy father? And when I got the sniff of starting to become a professional rugby player, would he have then pushed me into it? Would I have even picked up a rugby ball because I was showing promise in golf? There's a lot of complications with having your father around as well, I think. So it is a complex relationship, especially for a guy. So sometimes I'm like, God, I'm obviously gutted that I've lost him, but then in other ways there are benefits to doing things on my own as well. And I think with having my granddad and Gaz there, they have been father figures and been very harsh on me and held me to a high standard, but there's always been that out for me of, hang on, you're not my dad. There's always been that out. Whereas I couldn't have said that to my dad. And people can't. Like, there's some lads now on the team that think, God, my dad's just on me all the time. I think it makes me think, wow, how would the relationship have been if he were still here?
Yeah. Rugby coaches in your professional career, anyone stand out? I don't want you to label anybody as good or bad, but anyone stand out in terms of how they've helped you to be shaped as a man and a rugby player?
I think Paul Anderson, early on in my Huddersfield career, was old school, and
I know Paul, same age as me.
Is he?
Yeah.
Old school and very. I had to earn my stripes there, and it was a good, regardless of the rugby coaching, it was, and there was stuff that I don't always agree with as well. But I think on the whole, you can't agree with everything, and the lessons that I took from having to earn your stripes and not being given anything, respect, not being given it, trust, not being given it, having to earn my way into a team, and then just because I've done well there, you're still a young lad, you still have to earn. And that is a culture actually that my mum brought in, as like I was telling you before, of me doing jobs and having to, then as you get older, and I think respecting your elders, and in sport, I think that's probably in there in some way, shape or form, but in the world I think it's going a little bit. You don't really have to respect your elders anymore. These people do it, if you're good at what you do, it doesn't matter if you're older or younger, you're just good at what you do, so you can speak and say what you want.
Yeah.
And that was never the case. No matter how well I was playing, I was still a young lad.
Yeah.
And I like that within sport. I think it's a good thing to be able to show respect to people that have done it before, even if you are better than them. They've been doing it for longer. They've got the battle scars. I've got to show respect to, and I still do it now.
Yeah.
There's Faz there that's our captain that I wouldn't dream of. I've got a lot of experience in rugby league. I wouldn't dream of screaming and shouting or telling him what to do.
Yeah.
If it's right or wrong, he's done it. He's been there. He's got the battle scars. He's earned that respect to. And I think that was a massive to set me up for my career. It was tough, very tough, coming through Huddersfield, and there were I can remember making the step up from being a young lad, the boy really, to playing against men, Super League men. At 17-year-old, I made my debut, and I were in for a long period. And I can remember thinking, they'll take it easy on me. I'm only a young lad. Because that's what I was thinking I'd do if a 12-year-old. I was playing against a 12-year-old, with the same gap, 5 years, and I'm playing against 21, 22, 30-year-olds. They'll look after me. And that were a baptism of fire. I was very quickly switched on to the fact that there's nothing given. There's no free lunches. You are going to have to earn everything. And because I'm older than you, it's not only going to be, you're not going to given everything, you're going to be tested more than everybody else as well, because you're younger and you've chose to be in this sport, you've chose to play for this team, so it's on you to then take responsibility for what is to come and to tell us if you're trustworthy, if you get our respect. You can't just, and that for me was a great thing. It was good. I think to be challenged in that way and to realise that and then you start to realise why there's old players that maybe the fans don't see, or they're like, oh, why is he still playing? It's because they've earned that. They've been through that.
Yeah. So Paul Anderson was a old school black and white coach that you respected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after 8 years at Huddersfield, you went to Leeds?
Leeds, yeah.
How was that for you in terms of growth? Were there any coaches that mentored you? Were there any senior players that mentored you during the early years there?
It was a great period for me, because it was a time then to have established myself at Huddersfield, being a starter, regular, comfortable now. 8 years on from my debut, I'm comfortable there. And then for me to make that choice, there were a lot of people my age around there that were getting offered by bigger clubs at the time, doing better. Leeds were the best club at the time. They just won the treble. And they were getting offered, and I can remember them turning them offers down, saying, well, I'm getting a bit more money here, and I thought, yeah, but that's the best club. And they were like, well, I might not get picked and I might not get played. And me thinking, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to stay within my comfort zone. I need to go and see what this best team's all about, and I need to go and see why they're winning and why we're losing.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I admire myself for doing it, because I think a lot of my mates that are still at Huddersfield now that probably wished they might have experienced a different thing or whatever. And I always thought, even if I go and try it and it's not great, I'd rather regret something I have done than regret something I haven't done.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I'd have rather done back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't regret any of it. And then it gave me the power to be able to change and get out of your comfort zone. It's something that I've probably gone the other way in now, where I feel stagnant after 4 years, 3 years somewhere, where I'm like, right, I need to take myself out of my comfort zone again.
Yeah.
And it's propelled my career forward. I think it's been a
Yeah.
great thing for me to do, and I think it's a great thing for every human being. My opinion is to do things that challenge you, hard things, and take yourself out of your comfort zone every now and again, because that's where you grow, and that's where I've grown. And the challenge, to answer your question, like, were there any people that mentored you and stuff like that? The challenge for me was being around a different set of men, and being a person that I liked there at Huddersfield, and then going to a team that have won everything. Do I still be that person, or do I conform to other people's? And just because they'd won everything, I still had my beliefs and what I believed a good culture is, a strong team is. And to go to a team that had won everything as somebody from a team that had won nothing, it was hard to do, to stick by my beliefs and stick by my morals. And that was a big turning point for me, of just being authentic, being myself, being unapologetically myself. And it's something that I try and pride myself on. And that's not being going out and being a bad, nasty person. Oh, I'm just being myself. That's not that. It's just staying true to what I believe. When I come through the door, no matter if I'm playing for Leeds, Huddersfield, Siddle, Gold Coast, Wigan, when I come through the door and greet my mother, she knows that it's Kruise that's greeting her, and it's not, it's Kruise at Leeds, or Kruise at Huddersfield, or Kruise at Gold Coast. It's a different Kruise. I'm always her son that comes back and greets her, and she knows that I've still got that respect for her.
Yeah, responsibility.
So, moving from Huddersfield to Leeds, and we had a mixture of coaches. We lost a coach when I first got there. Rich left, and then another coach came in. Kevin Sinfield took over a little bit. Kevin Sinfield's somebody that's played a big part in my leadership career. The way that guy leads is, it was different to what I'd known before. I used to think you were born a good leader. That's what I thought. And when I got there, I stuck true to my word, and now looking back on the way I led at Leeds, I probably would do things a little differently, as we've touched on before. We're just too driven and too, it didn't matter about relationships and people. It was just, this is where we're going, this is what we're getting. And the way Kev led around how calculated he was, and it were almost like he had made himself a good leader, and it wasn't...
Through responsibility.
Through learning about people, through learning about yourself. I think that's the thing that's become prevalent to me now. It's, to be a good leader, you've got to know yourself.
Self-leadership is the bedrock of it.
More than anyone.
Yeah.
And there were certain things that used to trigger... Looking back now, there were certain things that I led with anger, and there were certain things that triggered me with, especially around emotion and people crying, or people... having little problems in their life, to me, because of what I'd been through. That's a little problem, but the biggest problem you've been through is the biggest problem you've been through, innit, in your life, no matter what it is.
Of course.
And I'd hear people's problems, and I'd have zero empathy towards it, in terms of, well, is that it? We're training here. Let's get on with it. Let's get on the line. Let's run. And I had no room for that, and it was because I'd probably not dealt with my dad. Not dealt with, I said I didn't believe it and pushed it to one side, and there were certain things that would trigger me in people, and instead of diving, like, now more the gaze has gone from looking outwards to looking at myself, and why does somebody crying in a changing room, or why is somebody feeling a bit down, or speaking about their emotions? Why is it making me feel uncomfortable? What is it in me? What's that darkness inside me that I'm not dealing with? And it's been such a great journey for me to look inwards, because I'm finding new things out about myself. That camp were brilliant to find out what people know, see me as, and for me to be vulnerable and speak about things, and little insecurities that I didn't know I had. Now I'm starting to wake up to it. Beautiful thing to start looking at yourself. I think there's so much to find out about myself. If anybody's trying to lead anybody else, like, you spend 10 years finding out about yourself, can't you?
Forever, yeah. There's so many layers, and there's so many evolving parts and pieces, and fascinating, isn't it? So I like what you said though, and it's very courageous of you to say that. And what I'm hearing really is that, throughout part of your career when you were younger, you were so driven, you were probably blocking out your feelings. You were triggered left, right, and centre, but you had this anger and this drive, and it just kept you going. What prompted you to look inwards? Was it another painful experience? Did you work with a therapist? Did you work with a psychologist? What started the journey inwards for you? Was it a book that you read? Was it witnessing somebody?
That's a great question, Craig. Okay, so the first prompt was probably my partner that I'm with now, Grace. She's a dancer, so she's very emotional in terms of expression. She's a dancer, so she dances the way she feels, and being a performer has got so much. And for her to break down and talk about her problems to me, actually started me thinking about, well, when you're so close to somebody and they're giving you scenarios and things that they've been through and sharing things, you automatically start to mirror them and start to think, and she's talking about her upbringing and what she went through, and her dad passed away and all this, and then you start feeling yourself thinking, I'm going to start sharing a bit then, because I can't just sit here and listen to you share it all, because...
So her vulnerability gave you permission to be vulnerable?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and you felt safe and you loved her, so it felt right to start digging in.
Yeah, that is, I couldn't have put it any better than that. Her vulnerability helped me to be vulnerable, and started looking at things and started thinking the arguments that we were having, why certain things she'd say to me, she could probably say to you and it won't bother you at all, and she says it to me and it hurts me. Why is that? What, and starting to look inward of why do things that you do and say, why do they hurt me so much, and then other things you do and say don't hurt me at all, why is that? And then not blaming her for everything, thinking she'll change, she'll do this, it was what can I do to be better, what can I do to be better, what can I do to be better, the responsibility thing again. And that's been big. And then obviously getting into the stuff you do and the leadership and speaking to you about certain things. We've had some good conversations about that have worked as well, of looking at how I can show up for her, be a better man for her, be better in my masculinity for her. And then it's almost like when I'm being a good masculine man and doing and not getting triggered and looking at myself, it's almost like that the problem that we had just sorted itself out. She ended up we're not arguing about the same things.
She doesn't have to change, does she?
She doesn't have to change, and it's beautiful exactly the way that she is.
And that's where a lot of men get caught. They get trapped thinking, well, if I'm fucking changing, you have to change, when really it's an energetic dance. And if you take radical ownership and you do change and you transcend some old patterns from the past, she has to change by default anyway, because it's all energy. It's an energetic dance. So because you've shifted, she has to somehow shift, and it's magic really. But so many men I meet, and it's like, I realise, Craig, I want to change, I realise I have to change, but she has to change as well. She has to do her work as well. If I'm going on a retreat, she's got to go on a fucking retreat, and it doesn't work. That's what male leadership is. It's just like, hang on a minute, I don't expect you to change, I'm going to radically change, see what happens. That's leadership really for me.
And what you're talking about there, another thing that's, again, something, I don't want to speak too much about faith and God, but I believe I was an atheist after my dad passed away. Just didn't believe in God, because I thought, how can God take away my dad from me? You're a good person, all this. And what I've started to realise as I'm older, you're living, if you're not in the present, which we can't always be, you're living in the future or the past. And for me, the future is, I'm either living in fear of what's going to happen, or I'm living in faith / optimism, whichever you want to call it. Every day that is not here, we're living in faith of it's going to be okay. And my faith is in God, and I've started to revisit that as I've got older. Something started pulling me back in. Grace also, she did the same thing. Grew up in Christianity, then went across when things weren't going so well for her. Now, as we've both started this journey together, and what it does is it makes you see people for as beautiful as they are, just the way they are, the differences. And I've stopped getting so annoyed with people and their different personalities, and it's made me just love them for who they are. And that thing that you spoke about they need to change, they don't see it the way I see it, so they need to change. That's what I did all my career. I went through that for so long, and now I just love the versatility and difference in people, because if they were all the same,
they're all expressions of God, right?
100%. That's the teaching of he made everybody beautiful. People just do wrong things, but it's made me. I saw a quote that we're talking about, when you walk through a woods, there's different trees, of green trees, tall trees, brown trees, all different. And when you walk through the woods, you just take in the scenery and love every tree for it as it is, and just say, wow, that's nice. Why don't we do that with people? Why do we have to change somebody because they haven't had enough sun, or they've had a different upbringing, or their leaves are a bit bigger than yours and they see it from a different way because they're a bit taller or whatever. We spend so much energy and time trying to change somebody to make them see it the way that we see it. And it's not. The beauty in life, for me now anyway, is hearing about the difference of why they see it the way they see it, and loving them for that.
Yeah.
And it's helped me in my relationship.
Yeah, no, I hear you, mate. I hear you. Tell me about Wigan. Signing for Wigan, big club. You've been in Australia, which was a goal of yours, and we've spoke about that. You had an amazing time out there, but then you get an amazing opportunity to sign for arguably the biggest club in the world. So, how's your time at Wigan been, and what have you learned about yourself while you've been at Wigan?
It's been brilliant. We've won everything that there is to win. So on a pure metric of success, intangible success, you've got to say that it's at 100%. We've won everything that we need to win. In terms of intrinsic, and the things that I've learnt about myself, is the way that they do it and the culture there, and Matty and the way it runs things. It's almost reaffirmed a lot of what I believed, and staying true to myself in certain morals, and I've had to change a little bit, but it's almost reaffirmed that. And something that really hit home with me is, if you stay true to what your authenticity is, and stay true to what you believe, you will bounce from group to group, and you might end up not getting on or not seeing eye to eye with everyone, and you might have to shape certain things, which is fine, but you almost end up settling in your group. And that, being authentic and being yourself, is the one thing that takes you to the place that you want to go and you want to be part of. If you're constantly swapping and changing your beliefs and stuff, and try to fit in, belong somewhere and fit in, then you don't actually find that group that actually gets you and aligns to you and lets you be you, and you feel free. And that's the best way I can describe Wigan, of Matty and the coaching staff, the community, the fans, of how I just feel like I'm being more myself now than I've ever been, and it's not a battle to be myself.
What a relief. It's ironic, isn't it? Because if you're not yourself, and you're scared of being yourself, and you wear a mask, how can you ever be accepted for being yourself? You can only be accepted for being yourself if you're brave enough to be yourself. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. And I seen something the other day that said, this organisation or this business don't let me be myself, or whatever. And it said, do you let yourself be yourself? It starts with you.
100%.
And people put excuses and barriers and things of, I'll be myself when I do this, or I'll be myself in this situation, or I'll be myself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not 100% of the time, I'm not saying and doing everything that I want to do, and being as free as a child is, where they're just coming out and being honest. And I'm trying to get back to that inner child as much as I can, where I'm just living. I'm not thinking about consequences and what I'm saying, and having trust in myself that I am a good person, and if I get things wrong, I get things wrong. But I feel the most free and the most myself right now than I ever have.
Great. So, mate, you're 29, you're still playing. Arguably at that age, you know, you're coming into your peak. Really, you've got a good few years left in the game. But it excites me when I look at you. It excites me what you're going to do after the game, because I know you think about that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years, mate? And what could your life look like then? If you had a magic wand, what you're doing in 10 years, what do you identify as, and what does your life look like?
Okay, I want to help people. I feel like the things we're talking about now, and certain things around what I've seen just in my short career of a professional athlete, I think a lot of the world takes value out of that. I've spoke to different businesses, I've spoke to different people about things that are just normal run of the day mill within culture and leadership and being a good person, and they're like, wow, I never thought about that. I thought, well, that's just my day. And I think if I go through that with a fine tooth comb, I think there's so many lessons and value that I can share with the world and give to people that have not been in a high performing sports environment.
Yeah.
And my life as well, and how I've had to shape certain things. That the suffering I've been through has given me stories and relatability to other people. So to answer your question, what do I see in my mind now is I just see me speaking, whether it's on a stage.
It comes natural to you, doesn't it?
I enjoy it.
So it makes sense to do it for a living, mate. That's a no-brainer.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love it as well.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I can help people, and I've been and spoke to a couple of different businesses now around leadership and around culture, around getting back to that inner child, and how do we do that as a team. And when I've come off stage, or when I've come out of the boardroom, I feel alive. Like I feel great doing it, and just that alone, to get that feeling all the time, I know that's what a game gives me, and I know I will be searching for that feeling after I retire.
Yeah.
And it's, where do I get that feeling from? Because I love that feeling.
Yeah.
So I see myself speaking, whether it's on a stage to hundreds of people, or whether it's in a boardroom speaking to, or whether it's one-to-one, like we're doing now, speaking about how I can help people in their life.
Speaker/coach.
Coaching. I probably don't see myself working within offices in terms of, being...
Don't work in an office, bro.
Yeah, I just don't see that.
Don't do that.
I just don't see that for myself.
It will kill your soul after spending so many years on the grass and in gyms, and you go into an office. I'm telling you now, don't do that.
Okay.
But I think you've got an amazing future, mate, as a speaker and a coach. Absolutely amazing. See what you're doing now with yourself and your own development and your capacity to learn and your willingness to learn, and it's admirable. One more question before we wrap up. I could talk all day, couldn't we? We mentioned earlier, I'm asking this question because I think it's really important in my work that I do, that you realise that, this quest as a young lad to be responsible and step up and do the hoovering and do the cleaning up and help your mum and fit in school and do and try and make something of your life might have led to suppression of playfulness. And I mentioned earlier that in our camp we saw how playful you can be around the fire, and so you made everybody laugh. What's one thing you can do in the next 10 days to bring that playfulness online?
I'm trying, within the seriousness of professional sport, I'm trying to bring that side out more and more. And it's a difficult thing because for me anyway, this is another thing where we speak about what used to trigger me. If I saw people playing and having a joke at previous teams, or when I've been a captain, I thought they didn't care.
Yeah.
And now I feel like a bit of a hypocrite to now and go and have a joke and have a laugh with people. And I know now as I've got older that's not the case.
Yeah.
And it's about being able to bring that online, like you're saying, in the right way that doesn't hurt the team. So
what about with your missus?
We laugh and joke a lot. We were dancing the other day to Glastonbury in front room. Yeah. So we do that a lot. I do that a lot away from but I'm trying to get it in a high pressured environment where it doesn't hurt the team.
Well,
That's
I've
where
seen
I'm
you
trying to do
today.
it.
I've seen you today, and you had a laugh.
Yeah, yeah,
When you were doing that passing drill.
yeah,
With the footwork.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see. What I want to say to you and the audience as well, especially any leaders that are watching, is, you know, when we grow up, we repress certain parts of ourselves. We have to in order to survive, because we end up showing to the world parts of ourselves that people accept and they love and they tell us we're good at, and we repress everything else that maybe they didn't like about us, right? So we grow up with this split personality. But and it's probably when you were at Leeds, you'd repressed parts of yourself. You could only show a certain aspect of yourself, right? For me, as a leader, that's limited. The more we can, and it only comes when you get older and more mature, we realise, oh, actually, I can be a bit more playful. I can be a bit more goofy. Sometimes I don't have to speak so much. Sometimes I want to speak more. Sometimes I can be like a commanding presence. Sometimes I can be aggressive. We develop what I call range. You know, it's a reclamation, really. But as a leader, it becomes really powerful, because if you're working or speaking to different types of people, you can get to more people when you're able to step into different expressions of yourself. Because they're all online when we're kids, but we hide them away growing up in order to be loved in the world. So by you kind of keep digging into these parts of yourself that you couldn't show as a kid because it wasn't safe to, or you didn't have time to, it makes you a better leader. You have more leadership range.
No, I totally agree. Just before we wrap up as well, Craig, I'd just like to say, for anybody who's listening, or, you know, to you that's listening, the camp that you did were brilliant. The conversations that we've had have been great. I love spending time with you. I love picking your brains on certain things. And for anybody who's listening who hadn't looked at some of your stuff or whatever, I think what you're doing is great, mate. And I really appreciate the help that you've given me as well.
Well, thanks, mate. That touches me. I appreciate that. And we know you're still a pro rugby player and you're going for it and you want to get better and better. But if people want to contact you for any, I don't know, speaking gigs or anything like that, where can they find you, mate?
I'm on LinkedIn, Kruise Leeming. I'm on Instagram, Lemo Kruise, TikTok. So, yeah, any of them.
Boom. Thanks for your time, mate. And, yeah, we could have spoke forever, so there might be a part 2.
Yes, thank you very much, mate.
Hope you've enjoyed the pod, and see you on the next one.